I was 16 the night my parents kicked me out into -10 degree weather because of a lie my sister told. My dad's voice still echoes in my head. "You're not welcome in this house anymore." I didn't fight. I didn't cry. I just walked away. I thought that was the worst moment of my life, but 2 weeks later, my father's pride would shatter in a way I never saw coming. My name is Lara, and before that night, I still believed family meant something. Maybe not safety, because things were rarely peaceful in our home, but at least something, a foundation. A place where truth mattered. But the truth meant nothing in my family, not when my older sister, Mia, learned how powerful a well-crafted lie could be. From the outside, we looked normal enough. Dad worked construction, loud and gruff, and convinced the world owed him respect. Mom was quieter, constantly smoothing over tension as if she were born with an apology on her tongue. And then there was Mia, 17, brilliant, charming, the kind of girl teachers adored. She knew exactly what face to wear, which strings to pull, and how to make everyone believe she was made of gold. Even me. Especially me. When we were younger, we were close. She braided my hair, shared secrets during thunderstorms, and told me the world was ours. But as we got older, that closeness twisted into something sharper. Mia discovered manipulation like it was a gift, and she practiced on me. Small things at first. A broken phone charger, missing money, a shattered mug. "Lara did it," she'd whisper with that perfect trembling lip. And Dad never questioned her, not once. He'd turn to me, face red, voice booming. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" It didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter what was true. Dad had chosen his golden child, and I had been assigned the role of disappointment. By the time winter rolled in, the tension in our house was something you could feel, like standing too close to a power line. Every word felt dangerous. Every step felt watched. And then came the night. It was a Thursday in January, the kind of night where the cold sinks through your clothes and into your bones. I'd just come home from school, frozen fingers tucked into my sleeves, when I heard Mom and Dad whisper arguing in the kitchen. Not unusual, except this time my name kept cutting through the air like a blade. "She's lying," my mom murmured, her voice trembling. "She wouldn't just confess something like that." Dad growled back. "Mia wouldn't lie. Lara's been trouble for months." My stomach twisted. I stepped into the doorway, and everything stopped. Dad turned toward me, his face furious in a way I'd never seen, even on his worst days. "Where is it?" he demanded. I blinked. "Where's what?" "The necklace," he barked. "Your mother's necklace. The one that belonged to her grandmother. Mia saw you with it." My blood ran cold. I had never touched that necklace. "Dad, I didn't." "Stop lying," he roared, slamming his fist on the counter. Mom flinched. Behind him, Mia stood with her arms crossed, eyes wide and innocent, like a porcelain doll. "I didn't want to say anything, Dad," she whispered, "but I saw her take it from Mom's drawer yesterday. I think she was going to sell it." My knees almost gave out. Sell it? I couldn't even imagine doing something like that. Dad stepped forward until he was inches from my face. "You disgust me." Mom tried to intervene. "Maybe we should hear her out." "No." Dad's voice dropped into something low and final. "I'm done." Then he pointed at the door. "Get out." I stared at him, breath caught in my throat. "What do you mean?" "You're not welcome in this house anymore." I looked at Mia. She didn't look away. In fact, she smiled, the tiniest, cruelest twist of her lips. And that was it. No explanation. No chance to defend myself. Just the cold. Just the snow. Just me. I stepped outside with nothing but the clothes on my back. The air cut through me like shards of glass. Behind me, the door slammed with a finality that felt like the end of the world. I didn't fight back. I didn't scream. I just walked. And as the snow began falling harder, stinging my skin, one thing became painfully clear. Something inside my family was broken beyond repair. And I wasn't the one who broke it. What I didn't know then, what no one knew, was that the truth was already unraveling behind that closed door. And when it finally surfaced, my father's pride would collapse so violently it would shake the entire foundation of our home. but that was still 2 weeks away. Tonight, all I had was the cold. The cold that night didn't feel like weather. It felt personal, like the world itself had decided I didn't belong in it. I walked without thinking, my boots crunching through snow as the wind whipped against my face. My fingers burned, then went numb. My breath came out in sharp white clouds. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't turn back. Every few steps, Dad's voice replayed in my mind. You're not welcome in this house anymore. 16 years old, kicked out, with no coat, no phone, no chance to explain. All because of Mia. The deeper the cold sank into my body, the clearer one truth became. My family had never really been mine. After maybe half an hour, though it felt like hours, I reached the town square. Streetlights glowed against the falling snow, and the bakery windows were fogged up from the warmth inside. I pressed my hands against the glass, desperate for even a little heat, then backed away. I didn't want anyone calling my parents. I didn't want to go home. Home wasn't home anymore. I ended up at the old bus shelter on Maple Street. Just 3 metal walls, no heater, but at least it blocked the wind. I curled up on the bench, pulling my knees against my chest as my whole body shivered uncontrollably. For a moment, I felt myself drifting into that dangerous place between sleep and unconsciousness. The cold was winning. I knew it, and a dark, quiet thought whispered at the back of my mind. If I fall asleep here, I won't wake up. I pushed myself upright, forcing my eyes to stay open. That was when I heard footsteps crunching in the snow. For a second, panic shot through me. What if Dad had followed me? What if he'd come to drag me back inside just to yell again? But then I saw who it was. Tyler. He lived 2 streets over and had been my closest friend since kindergarten, the one person who didn't treat me like a shadow of my sister. His face was pale from the cold, his breath visible as he jogged toward me. Lara? He dropped his backpack and crouched beside the bench. What the hell are you doing out here? You're freezing. I opened my mouth to speak, but the words stuck. My throat felt raw. He didn't wait for an explanation. Come on, he said, taking my arm gently. You're staying at my place. I tried to refuse, but my body wouldn't cooperate. He wrapped his scarf around my neck and practically carried me down the street. My legs felt like they were made of ice. When we reached his house, the warmth hit me so quickly my vision blurred. His mom gasped when she saw the state I was in, shaking, pale, barely able to stand. Oh my God, sweetheart, she said, pulling me inside. What happened? I wanted to answer. I did. But the moment she shut the door, something inside me cracked. Tears spilled down my cheeks before I could stop them. Not loud sobs, just silent shaking, like my body was emptying out everything I'd been forced to hold in. She didn't push me. She didn't ask for details. She simply wrapped a blanket around me and guided me to their couch. You're safe here, she whispered. Safe. A word I hadn't felt in years. Tyler returned with a mug of something hot. My hands shook too badly to hold it, so he sat beside me, letting me warm my fingers against the steam. What did they do? He finally asked, his voice low. I shook my head, not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud made it real. He didn't push. He just sat with me in silence. An hour later, when I had stopped shivering and the color had returned to my cheeks, Tyler's mom said gently, "You can stay the night, or as long as you need." I nodded. The relief almost hurt. But as I lay on the pull-out couch, wrapped in blankets, another feeling crept in. Anger. Cold, heavy anger that settled somewhere deep inside my chest. My sister had lied. My father had chosen her lie over my life. And my mother, she didn't even come after me. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe I'd always been nothing more than a placeholder child, convenient to blame, easy to discard. But as the night stretched on, one truth grew louder and sharper. If they didn't want me, then I didn't owe them anything anymore. Not explanations. Not loyalty. Not forgiveness. And I had no idea then, but the lie Mia told, the one that got me thrown into the freezing cold, was already beginning to unravel in ways none of them could hide from. 2 weeks later, the truth would explode through our home like a wrecking ball. But for now, all I could do was wait. And breathe. And try, for the first time in my life, to imagine a world where I wasn't their scapegoat. I stayed with Tyler's family for 3 nights before anyone from my house attempted to contact me. 3 nights of borrowed clothes, warm meals, and a kind of silence that didn't feel dangerous. His mother kept checking on me, gently. Not in the way someone watches a problem, but in the way someone watches a person. It was strange. Nice, but strange. I wasn't used to being cared for. On the 4th morning, everything changed. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of tea when Tyler walked in, holding his phone with a look I couldn't read. "You need to hear this," he said, lowering his voice. My chest tightened. "What is it?" He hesitated before pressing play. It was a recording, quiet at first, muffled voices, but then I recognized them. My parents. My father's voice boomed first, sharp and frustrated. "Just tell me where you put it. This is not a game, Mia." My stomach dropped. Mia. She sounded irritated, annoyed, not sad, not scared, not anything close to the trembling voice she used when lying about me. "Dad? I don't know. Maybe Mom misplaced it," she snapped. A pause. A heavy breath. Then my father again, angrier this time. "You said you saw Lara take it. That's what you told us." My pulse hammered. My skin went cold. "I never said I saw her take it," Mia fired back. "I said she was in the room. You're the one who assumed she stole it." Another pause. Louder footsteps. Something slammed, maybe a cabinet door. "You told us she was going to sell it," Dad yelled. "That's not what I said." "That's exactly what you said." Then the recording cut off. I stared at the phone, my breath trapped somewhere in my throat. "Where did you get that?" I whispered. Tyler rubbed the back of his neck. "My mom works with your aunt. Your aunt came over last night, upset. She said your dad and sister were screaming at each other for an hour. Someone in their house recorded part of it and sent it to her because they were worried things were getting out of control." My vision blurred for a moment. "So they know," I murmured. "They know Mia lied." Tyler's expression darkened. "Yeah, they know." A strange feeling washed over me. Not relief, not yet, but something like the ground shifting beneath my feet. For so long, I had begged for someone to believe me. Now the truth was out, and suddenly I didn't know what to do with it. "What are they going to do now?" I asked. Tyler shrugged. "Probably act like nothing happened. That's how your dad works." He wasn't wrong. Dad had never apologized for anything in his life. Not to me, not to Mom, not to anyone. But this time, the truth wasn't coming from me. This time, they had said it themselves. I should have felt vindicated. I should have felt something like victory. But instead, all I felt was tired. That afternoon, while I was folding the clothes Tyler's mom had washed for me, there was a knock at the door. A firm, familiar knock that made my stomach twist. I knew that knock. I grew up with that knock. Tyler opened the door before I could stop him. It was my mother. Not my father, which surprised me. She looked smaller than I remembered, her shoulders hunched, her hair pulled back in a messy knot like she hadn't slept much. "Lara," she said softly, eyes searching mine. "Can we talk?" I didn't move. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. Tyler stepped aside, watching carefully. Mom stepped in, clutching her gloves between her fingers. "I didn't realize how cold it was that night," she began. "I should have come after you. I should have." "Why didn't you?" I interrupted, my voice quiet but steady. She blinked, caught off guard. "Your father was furious. I thought if I said anything, it would make things worse." "For who?" I asked. A long silence filled the room. "For you," she whispered. "And maybe for me too." Her voice cracked, and she looked down. The necklace was in the laundry basket. I found it yesterday. It slipped into a pocket when I was folding clothes. A sharp stab of disbelief went through me. "So Mia lied," I said. Mom closed her eyes. "Yes." And Dad believed her anyway. She didn't deny it. She didn't try to explain it away. Instead, she whispered, "Your father doesn't know how to handle being wrong." "That's not my problem," I replied. Her eyes filled with tears. I know. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said the words I never expected to hear. "Please come home." I felt Tyler shift beside me, ready to step in if I needed him, but I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I looked at my mother, Not at the woman who always smoothed things over. Not at the person who chose silence. But at a human being who finally looked as broken as the truth she had tried to hide. "No," I said quietly. Her breath caught. "Lara. I'm not coming back to a house where the truth doesn't matter." Her tears finally fell. And for the first time in my life, I watched my mother realize she couldn't pull the pieces together this time. Something had cracked too deeply. Something she could no longer fix. My mother left Tyler's house with red eyes and shaking hands, and for the rest of the evening, I waited for my phone to start buzzing with calls or messages from my dad. But nothing came. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Not even anger. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't mean peace. The kind that means a storm is building somewhere out of sight. Tyler and his mom tried to distract me with pizza and a movie, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. A part of me still couldn't believe Mia's lie had finally cracked. Another part, the bigger part, didn't know what to do with the weight of everything unraveling. Around 9 that night, my mother texted, "Your father knows everything. He's very upset. Please don't come home tonight. I'll explain more tomorrow." Upset. That word hit me like ice water. Upset that he kicked out a child into freezing weather? Upset that he believed a lie over his own daughter? Upset because he realized the truth? No. I knew my father well enough. He wasn't upset about what he did. He was upset he'd been proven wrong. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed, then turned the phone face down. I didn't text back. The next morning, I woke to the sound of voices downstairs. Not yelling, just low, serious conversation. Tyler knocked softly on the door. "They're here," he said. "Who?" He hesitated. "Your aunt. And your mom." My stomach dropped. My body reacted before my mind could catch up, heart racing, fingers trembling, breath quick and shallow. I didn't want a scene. I didn't want pity. And I definitely didn't want another emotional plea wrapped in excuses. But when I walked downstairs, what I saw wasn't pity or panic. It was fear. My aunt sat on the couch, arms crossed tightly, her expression grim. My mother sat beside her, looking older than she had the day before. Both women stood when they saw me. "Lara," my aunt said gently, "we need to talk." I looked at my mother, who couldn't quite meet my eyes. "What's going on?" I asked. My aunt exchanged a look with her. "Your father is not taking things well." "That's not new," I said dryly. "No," she replied. "This time is different." She explained slowly, carefully, as if she were handling broken glass, that when my mother confronted Dad about the necklace, about kicking me out, about refusing to listen, he exploded. Not in his usual angry way, worse. He accused my mother of choosing me over Mia. He blamed her for the house falling apart. He insisted he had been right and everyone else was wrong. It escalated until my mother finally said the one thing he couldn't tolerate. "You were wrong, and you hurt our daughter." And according to my aunt, something inside my father snapped. He punched a hole in the wall of their bedroom, shattered a picture frame with his bare hands, threw a chair across the room. Mia locked herself in the bathroom crying. My mother fled the house. "He's never been like this," my aunt finished quietly. "He's ashamed, Lara, and instead of handling it, he's unraveling." I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Fear? Guilt? Satisfaction? Instead, I felt hollow. My mother finally spoke. "Your father wants to talk to you." "No," I said instantly. "Please, no." I forced my voice to stay calm. He kicked me out into freezing cold because of a lie. He didn't care if I froze to death. He only cares now because he looks bad. My aunt nodded slowly, almost approvingly. My mother's eyes filled again. "We just want the family to heal," she whispered. I shook my head. "The family broke a long time ago. You just didn't notice until now." A painful silence settled around us. My mom wiped her cheek. "What do you want from us, Lara? What would make things right?" I thought about that question. Really thought about it. For years, all I had wanted was simple. To be believed. To be heard. To be treated like my existence mattered. But now? After everything? "I don't want anything from you," I said softly. "Not anymore." My mom let out a shaky breath. My aunt's eyes softened with something like pride. You don't have to forgive him, my aunt said. But you do need to decide what comes next. What came next? The words felt heavy, meaningful. Because whether I wanted to admit it or not, this wasn't just about one lie, or one night in the cold. This was about a lifetime of being dismissed, blamed, overlooked, and a father whose pride mattered more than his child. As they left, my mother stopped at the door and turned back. He knows the truth now, she said quietly, and it's destroying him. I didn't answer. My mother saw the silence as cruelty. But it wasn't. It was clarity. Because deep down I knew something neither of them wanted to say aloud. The night they kicked me out wasn't the breaking point. This, the truth he couldn't escape, this was the beginning of the real collapse. For the next few days, the house I had grown up in existed only as a set of whispers. My aunt texted updates. Tyler overheard things at school. Even neighbors began asking questions. My father's temper. Mia's collapsing story. My mother's sudden absence. Word travels fast in a small town, especially when the facade of a perfect family starts to crack. I tried to ignore it. I told myself I didn't care. But every time my phone buzzed, a knot tightened in my stomach. Then, 3 days after my mother came to Tyler's house, something happened that changed everything. I received a message from my homeroom teacher, Mrs. Walsh. Lara, can you stop by the school office this afternoon? We need to discuss your welfare situation. My heart dropped. Welfare situation? I hadn't told the school anything. I hadn't asked for help. I wasn't trying to cause trouble. When I walked into the counselor's office, my palms were cold and sweaty. Mrs. Walsh sat beside Mrs. Patel, the school counselor, both women looking far more serious than I expected. Lara, Mrs. Patel began, we received a report that you were forced out of your home in dangerous conditions. My breath caught. Who reported that? Your aunt, Mrs. Walsh said gently. And another parent who said their child heard something from yours. Tyler. Of course. I stared at my hands. I didn't ask anyone to get involved. Mrs. Patel nodded. We know, but they were right to. What happened to you was severe. Hearing it phrased like that, severe, made something twist deep inside. Because I had simply been too conditioned to minimize it. They continued explaining that a file had been opened with Child Protective Services. A social worker would need to speak with me. They asked if I felt safe returning home. No, I said, with no hesitation. For the first time, I watched the disbelief flicker in their eyes, the recognition of a truth they hadn't expected but now couldn't unsee. Then we'll document that clearly, Mrs. Patel said. You don't have to go back, not unless the situation changes dramatically. Something in me settled. Not peace, not satisfaction, but validation. Someone finally believed me. But while I was processing all of that, something else was happening across town. My father, apparently, had learned that a social worker was coming. According to my aunt's next text, he exploded again, screaming at my mother, insisting she had ruined the family, blaming me for dragging outsiders into our business. Even Mia wasn't spared this time. My aunt wrote, he yelled at her for lying. He's not defending her anymore. She's terrified. I should have felt something like justice, but all I felt was exhaustion. The lies were collapsing, yes. But the damage had been done long before this moment. That evening, as I sat on Tyler's couch, trying to finish homework, there was another knock at the door. Softer than before, hesitant. Tyler glanced at me. Your mom? No, a voice said quietly. Mia. My heart stopped. She stood in the doorway, hugging herself against the cold, eyes swollen, hair messy, nothing like the immaculate version of her I had grown up with. Tyler stepped aside, cautiously. We stared at each other. I needed to talk to you, she said, voice trembling. Part of me wanted to turn away, to protect myself, but I didn't move. She stepped closer. Dad is losing his mind. He's blaming everyone now. Me, Mom, even the neighbors. He won't accept he was wrong. He keeps saying you set us up. I felt a bitter laugh rise in my chest. Set you up? I didn't even touch the necklace. I know, she whispered. Her chin quivered. I know you didn't. It was the first time she had ever said those words. Maybe the first time she had spoken the truth in years. "Why, Mia?" I asked quietly. "Why did you lie?" She looked away, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Because I didn't think it would go that far. I didn't think he'd throw you out. I thought he'd just yell, 'Ground you,' something stupid. I didn't expect—" "You didn't expect him to choose you?" I said sharply. "He always chooses you." That hit her. Hard. She sank onto the arm of the couch, wiping her eyes. "I didn't do it to hurt you, Lara. I swear. I was just angry. Mom found out I skipped school that day, and I panicked. You were in her room earlier looking for the laundry basket, so I just said it." I stared at her, disbelief cold and sharp. "You ruined my life because you panicked?" She folded into herself. "I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry." I believed she meant it. I also knew it wasn't enough. "Dad wants you home," she added softly. "Mom, too. They want to explain." "No," I said immediately. "Not yet." "Then when?" she whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. "When the truth isn't something you all try to hide," I replied. "When it costs all of you as much as it cost me." Her tears fell harder. "Dad's falling apart." "He should," I said. "He created this." Mia stood slowly, wiping her cheeks, looking smaller than she ever had. "When you're ready," she whispered, "we'll be waiting." As she walked out, I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just a quiet, steady understanding. The collapse had begun. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one holding up the pieces. The social worker visited 2 days after Mia showed up at Tyler's door. She spoke with me privately, then with his parents, then with my aunt. She was gentle but direct, taking notes, asking questions I never imagined answering out loud. "Do you feel safe returning home?" "No." "Do you believe your father would react violently if confronted?" "Yes." "Do you want to go back?" I hesitated, but only for a moment. "No," I said. "Not unless something changes. Not unless they change." When she left, I sat on the couch and stared at the blank TV screen, watching my own reflection, tired eyes, messy hair, a face I barely recognized anymore. 16, but feeling so much older. That afternoon, my mother texted again. "We need to talk, please. Your father wants to see you." My stomach twisted. I didn't want to see him. Not after everything. Not after the lies, the cold, the silence. But the social worker had said something that stuck in my mind. "Closure isn't for them, Lara. It's for you." So, I agreed to a meeting. But only at my aunt's house, not theirs. Neutral territory. When we arrived, my mother was already sitting at the dining table. She looked drained, her hands wrapped around a mug as if it were the only thing keeping her grounded. My father sat beside her. The moment I saw him, a strange calm settled over me. Not peace, just clarity. He didn't look like the towering force I had grown up fearing. He looked small, deflated. Like someone whose anger had burned so long it finally consumed the air around him. He cleared his throat, eyes fixed on the table. "Lara, sit down." It wasn't quite an invitation, not quite a command. I stayed standing. "I'm fine here," I said. My father's jaw tightened. My aunt watched him closely, ready to intervene if needed. My mother exhaled shakily. "Lara, we know we hurt you. We know what happened was wrong." I didn't speak. I wanted him to say the words. But he didn't. He kept staring at his hands, the skin around his knuckles still scraped from the hole he punched in the wall. So I asked, "Do you know what you did?" My mother nodded instantly. My father didn't move. "Dad," I said, quieter now, "look at me." Slowly, reluctantly, he lifted his head. "You kicked me out into -10 degrees because of a lie," I said. "You didn't ask questions. You didn't give me a chance. You didn't care if I froze. You didn't care if I died." His face twitched, a flinch so small most people would have missed it. "I was angry," he muttered. "That's not an excuse," I said. "It's all I've got," he snapped, then caught himself, forcing his voice down. "I shouldn't have done it." "Say it clearly," my aunt said sharply. He swallowed. "I was wrong." It was the closest thing to an apology I would ever get from him. But instead of relief, all I felt was grief. Heavy, slow, sinking grief for all the years I had spent begging for even this tiny scrap of honesty. "I'm sorry," my mother whispered, tears filling her eyes. "I should have protected you. I should have believed you." Her voice cracked, and she covered her face with her hands. My aunt rubbed her back gently. I nodded. Her apology, at least, felt real. Then my father spoke again. "Come home." It wasn't a question. It wasn't even kindness. It was an attempt to restore the order he understood, the order where he controlled everything. "No," I said softly. His head jerked up. "What do you mean, no?" "I'm not coming back," I said. "Not now. Maybe not ever." My mother sobbed. My father went pale. "You can't." "I can," I said, "and I am." I explained that I would stay with Tyler's family temporarily while the social worker assessed the situation, that I needed distance, stability, a place where I wasn't the scapegoat or the afterthought or the punching bag for someone else's pride. My father's face hardened, but he stayed silent. For the first time in my life, he was the powerless one in the room. My aunt cleared her throat. "This is her choice, and you will respect it." My father stood abruptly, pushing his chair back. For a second, I thought he might shout, or leave, or break something again. Instead, he looked at me with an expression I had never seen before. Not rage. Not disappointment. Something closer to fear. Then he walked out of the room. My mother cried again, apologizing softly, asking if she could see me during the week. I told her maybe, not out of cruelty, but honesty. Healing wasn't instant. Trust didn't regrow because someone admitted a mistake. When I finally left my aunt's house and stepped into the cool evening air, I felt something ease inside me, something I had carried for years without knowing its weight. Tyler was waiting in the car. "How'd it go?" I buckled my seatbelt, exhaled slowly, and said, "I chose myself." His smile was small, but bright. "Good." As we drove away, I looked out the window at the town I had always felt trapped in. But now, it didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a starting line. Because the truth wasn't just revealed, it was finally mine to walk away from. And healing wasn't about going back. It was about going forward. Sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury. Sometimes it's simply refusing to be who they decided you were. Sometimes the victory is choosing your own life and leaving the door they slammed behind you closed for good.